Hi, welcome to Chapter 9, uh, a chapter about payroll. This is our second chapter in Unit 1. Uh, I am available for any questions you have about the chapter. Just email me. I'm going to go through it. You should pause to do problems or write things down or ask a question. But in the meantime, I'm going to go through it and you can stop and start it as you see fit. There's going to be a couple of these videos for this chapter. The first one, I'm going to attempt to do all of the first section, but it may take more than one video for that. All right. So here's the overview. I'm just going to talk about the section names, the employee gross earnings and incentive pay plans. There's a lot of different ways that salaries are configured and paid, and a lot of things that contribute to that. So we're going to go through all of that. Employee payroll deductions is the second section. And then the third section is employer payroll expenses and self-employed person's tax responsibilities. All right, let's go. Let's head into section 1. So section 1, employee gross earnings and incentive pay plans. There's gross pay or gross earnings, and this is just the language you need to know, is the total amount of earnings due an employee for work performed before payroll deductions are withheld. So your gross pay is your overall pay before anything is pulled out of it, and there's a lot of things that can potentially be pulled out of it. Your net pay or net earnings or take-home pay, all of these mean the same thing, are the actual amount of the employee's paycheck after all payroll deductions have been withheld. So that's what you actually put in the bank or cash and put in your pocket. Your salary is the fixed gross amount of pay equally distributed over periodic payments without regard to the number of hours worked. So when you're on salary, you make, you hear people, oh, they got a job, it's $80,000 a year. They may work weekends, they may not. They may work from 8 to 3 or 8 to 5 and then not have any work in the evenings or, have to go in on the weekends. I am a salaried employee of SUNY Delhi, and it doesn't matter whether I stay up till midnight doing videos or have an event like a Bronco ready day on Saturday. That is my salary for the year, and that is not altered in terms of how much more time I work or not. And that's what salaried is. Okay, so a pay schedule has to do with the number of weeks in a year. So our net pay is our gross pay minus any deductions, right? Which we just talked about on the previous slide. So a pay schedule can have a varying layout, and all companies and all different types of lines of work have different pay periods. Weekly is 52 checks in a pay year, so it's your annual salary divided by 52. Remember, there are 52 weeks in a year, and that's not even perfect, right? Because 365 divided by 7 is not exactly 52. There's a decimal there, so it gets a little funky. But it's not 48. Don't do 12 times 4, because every week, every month has more than, or has a varying amount of weeks. It's not exactly 4 perfectly. So it's 52. Remember 52. Bi-weekly means that you get paid every other week. And that's 26 of those pay periods. That's how I get paid at SUNY Delhi. Semi-monthly is 24 paychecks per year. So that is a kind of a different notion. You're getting paid twice a month. So it's relative to the month, not to the weeks, right? Which is kooky and similar to biweekly, but not the same. And monthly is 12 paychecks once a month. I've not really heard of that one, but it obviously is out there, but I don't know anybody who gets paid monthly. All right. So here's an example. I'd like you to stop the video to do the problem, and then I'm just going to keep going. What is a weekly, biweekly, semi-monthly, and monthly amount of gross pay for an engineer with an annual salary of $78,000? Go ahead, you figure it out. Remember, you're calculating the number of weeks or the number of pay periods and dividing that into this number, which is on the previous slide. This PowerPoint is also posted on Vanco Hall, so you can have that open so you can go back if you want to, or you can just rewind the video. Do we say rewind anymore or go back? Okay. So here's the answer. When we divide by 52, we get 1,500. You can read the rest. So it all depends on how you like to be, or well, I guess it depends on the company and how they pay, right? But you get more or less money depending per paycheck, but when you get paid more frequently, you get more of those checks. Okay. All right, so my picture keeps being in the wrong place. Employee wages, hourly, regular, and overtime. So this is now not salaried anymore. We're going into being paid in a different way. Wages. That's the earning for routine or manual work based upon or on the number of hours worked. So wages are when you are not salaried and getting like a $40,000 a year, $80,000 a year. This is when you get $12 an hour and you work for places like McDonald's, or you work in construction, or you work in maybe in healthcare per diem, that kind of thing. Hourly wages or hourly rate is the amount that they're paid per hour, which is what I just said, right? So a lot of home health aides, they get paid like $20 an hour to come and care for someone in their home. That's an hourly rate. Overtime is when you work more than 40 hours in a work week, you get more money per hour for your work over that time. So according to federal law, the amount an employee is paid for each hour worked over 40 hours per week. And we'll talk about that. Okay, so here's how you calculate gross pay by hourly wage. So first you calculate an employee's regular gross pay for working 40 hours or less. So it's just their hourly rate times their hours worked, and that gets you their regular pay. To calculate the overtime pay, you're going to multiply the hourly rate by the overtime factor by the overtime factor by the number of overtime hours. Okay, so an example, to see this, it's better, and I always feel like doing a problem is the best way to understand everything. So overtime pay is the hourly rate times the overtime factor times the overtime hours. So if you are working for, let's just say, $20 an hour, and you work for 5 hours overtime, so you've worked 45 hours in the week, then you would take the hourly rate, 20, times 5, and then you would take the times 5 as the hours worked. The overtime factor, it depends on the business that you work in and the kind of time it is. Sometimes you hear it at holiday time, it's double time for overtime. Usually it's time and a half. So you could do the time and a half here if it's a factor of 1.5, or 2 if it's double, right? So in other words, it's like getting paid not $20 an hour, but 30 if it's time and a half, right? Because it's half of that more, or 40 hours a week an hour if it's double, right? That's why people work on those weird times at the holidays or weekends, because they get such a nice reward. They get paid so much more than usual. And then to calculate the gross pay, you add the regular hour pay and you add the overtime. And that gets you the amount of money you get for that particular pay period. So here's an example. Jimmy works in a factory for $7.50 per hour with time and a half. So there's that time and a half for overtime and double time on Sundays. Whoa, what is his total gross pay for the week if he worked 45 hours on Monday through Saturday plus a 4-hour shift on Sunday? All right, so you go ahead and take a hold of that, and I will stall. 2 seconds to let you stop, and then I'm going to go on. All right, so regular pay, we would take the $7.50 times the 40, because that's the regular hours, and we pay regular amount of money. Overtime would be that overtime factor plus the overtime hours worked times that same hourly rate. So it would be the $7.50 times 1.5 times 5 to get $56.25. So now we have $300 and the $56.25 coming to Jim. And then the Sunday is a factor of 2 for that $7.50. So he's getting $15 an hour on Sunday, and that's times 4 gets 60. And so to figure it all out, we add it all up, and he gets $416.25 that particular week. Okay, so again, if you have questions, please let me know. Okay, so I'm going to go on to this one. So there's a whole other way of being paid, calculating gross pay by straight and differential piecework schedules. So piecework is a pay rate based on production output, not hours worked. So the number maybe of, if you're a car detailer, maybe you get paid by the number of cars you detail or wash. Or maybe you get paid by the number of masks you make, right? If you're working for somebody to make new masks for everybody. So that would be piecework. Straight piecework plan, you pay per unit of output regardless of the output quantity. Differential piecework plan has a greater incentive method of compensation than straight piecework, where pay unit increases as output goes up. So, you know, the first 50 is a certain amount, then 50 to 100, you get more, right? So it incentivizes the production of whatever that the piece is that people are working on. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm going to, whoops, I'm not in slideshow mode. Let me get that. So we're going to come into the next, the part 2 for this particular part of the lesson. So join me on part 2, okay? And we'll go through the next example. See you there.